is up, everyone? I'm Jeff London. This is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, where we are intolerant of weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. As far as new and exciting things go, my cousin Eric is getting married in Washington, D.C. this week, so there will likely not be a podcast for next week, but there will certainly be one about this coming week, the week after. He's going to get married in D.C. He's been there ever since he graduated from college, George Washington University, where my brother also went. It should be fun. It should be a lot of fun. I bought a suit for this. I'm an usher in the wedding, so I bought a suit for this, which I did not have a suit after I got rid of the last one I had, which didn't fit anymore. I bought it online at a substantially reduced rate from Men's Warehouse, which was cool. I don't know exactly why it was reduced so substantially. I can maybe assume that someone might look at the suit and think, oh, well, look at that thing. But I don't know. It's a black suit, man. Black suits look like black suits. So I had to have the pants hemmed, which they are now hemmed. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it dry cleaned because the place here in Ketchikan that I thought was the only place in town is now a boat store. So there might be somewhere else, but I don't know. I haven't looked at this point. I don't think I'd be able to have it done in time. So headed to D.C., in a suit, never worn before, hemmed by a colleague. I think it's going to be fine. I don't see how anything can go wrong. It should be fun. Excited to see the family back there. Eric is a fellow Alaskan, grew up in Wasilla, then went to school back there, and he proposed on a glacier, which is pretty sweet. So it got me thinking about technology, and I'm going to kind of recap this last week, and technology has kind of been on the brain. First of all, last Monday, went out hunting after school, and I checked out this spot on Google Maps, and as is often the case, what Google Maps says something looks like is not what it looks like. By and large, Google Maps gives you a good idea, but you always know there's a discrepancy between what it looks like and what it actually is. So it looked like it was going to be a pretty open, fairly clear space. But when I got there, there was so much of that really, really loud, knee-high brush and shrubbery. I don't know what those plants are called, but they're nice enough plants. But they're just everywhere, and it's impossible to move through that quietly at all. You can control the noise to a degree when you're walking over a muskeg. If it's really wet, if you step more on your toes than on your heels, then your boot doesn't get stuck as much, so you can kind of control the amount of squishing that you make. But man, those plants, it just grab onto everything. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It's just so stinking loud. So I was up there and super loud. I didn't go all the way to one of the other clearings because I thought, this is what it is. I'm just going to hang here for a little bit. So I was there for about a half hour, and it looked like a pretty nice travel corridor for bear and for deer. And I went back in the woods just enough, so it was kind of a deep timber, and all the brush was cleared out. But then I was having a difficult time finding some actual lanes between the trees. So what went from a disappointing discovery of that low shrubs that was impossible to move through quietly was a deeper timber, but without much shooting lane opportunity. So my scouting mission was kind of thwarted at that point. I was back there for a little bit, and I didn't bring a sidearm because I just didn't. I don't know. It was an after school hunt. I didn't have time to run home, or when I ran home, I didn't have time. I just too fast rushed it, didn't get it. So I had my bow, and then after I was back there for about a half hour, so like I said, I realized I didn't even have my release. And I thought, good job. That's great. So I immediately left. I didn't stay around to scout or take pictures of anything because I didn't want to see a buck and not have my release. Sure, you can pull it back and you can take a shot without a release. You don't need a release. But I'd never practiced that, so the last thing I wanted to do was to put myself in a situation where I was doing something totally unfamiliar and unpracticed on a nice buck. And I thought, what if it was going to be a bear, or what if I needed some sort of protection from a bear with cubs? You only think about those sort of things when you're out hunting. Growing up here, I've been to the rivers plenty of times. There have been bears around, and I never brought a sidearm to the river. When we were growing up, we'd ride our bikes to the river, and there'd be bears around. Just not really something you worried about. And these are black bears. These aren't grizzly bears or brown bears. And those things that's a different story altogether. But black bears just kind of go about their own business. So we never really grew up scared of them, and I've never owned a can of bear spray. So not a big deal. But when you're out there and you have a weapon, it's almost like I can sense that animals can sense that I might be there to do them harm. So all of a sudden it seems like every black bear I see knows that I want to do it harm and would totally attack if given the chance. Like it's a survival situation. Not just I'm going to get out of the way because I'm scared of humans like they usually are. So anyway, it's just in my head. But had no release and made a post about that on Facebook, which again is you've got two great tools for the modern hunter and angler right there. One is Google Earth to be able to scout spots. You can look at rivers. You can't really tell depth and stuff, but you can see how things bend and whatnot. Then be able to look for terrain where it might be a good spot for rut or mountains. I mean, you can do so much scouting on Google Earth. It's so awesome. I can't imagine. People used to look at maps and see what we kind of see on Google Earth with the contour lines, and you could see it at a different level. But I've never trained my eye to be able to see it like that. You read the contour maps and you can tell where it gets steep and this and that. But up here in Southeast Alaska, it's hard to tell those flatter areas. Are they covered in timber? How dense is the timber? What is this muskeg going to look like? How big is this muskeg? So Google Earth really just paints the picture literally, and that's such an advantage for the modern hunter. And then Facebook is great because you have a fraternity of people who are on there who are more than willing to give advice, also to criticize and just totally make hunters and anglers out to be the characters that we are portrayed by anti-hunters. Just the epitome of all that is just wrong with hunting and why we get a bad name oftentimes. But the vast majority, well, actually, I don't know. I can't say the vast majority, but I do know that a lot of people I interact with are gracious people who enjoy the resource and care about the resource. They aren't just sadistic murderers like they're portrayed by some of the anti-hunter types. But so on Facebook, I made a post about that, and I got some good advice. There are some people who. One guy said that there's only two places he ever has his release. One is on his wrist and the other is on his bow, which makes sense. I had my release next to my bow, and in the process of getting my bow out, I kept my release, or I left it on the passenger seats. When I got back to the truck, it was right there. But that's a good little tip there. Have it attached to the bow. When you leave the house, have it attached to your bow. If it's not on your wrist, that makes total sense. So, technology right there. Guy I've never met, fellow hunter though, helping it out with a nice little tip there. So that was cool. Another thing that's been that I used for a trial was the onX maps that are really, really cool. I just didn't think that I would need it up here because you're in Southeast Alaska, and the vast majority of Alaska is public land. You got Southeast Alaska is mostly Tongass National Forest, and so you don't have to worry so much about getting on people's land or private versus public land. But it's cool. onX Maps, there's a lot of cool features. Mostly, I can't imagine functioning without it down in the lower 48, going on a hunt in California or Idaho or Montana or Wyoming. I just cannot imagine not having that and trying to figure out exactly where one property begins and another one ends. I'm sure it's a lot easier than I might think it is. Just you get used to the area, and the more familiar you are with the area, then it makes it easier. But there's just a dizzying amount of regulations and subgroups and subsections and just whose land am I on. So I think it'd be a great tool to have. My free trial has expired. I'm not sure if I'm going to update it, but there's part of me that definitely thinks that maybe it'd be a good investment. You start adding up all this stuff, though. You add up a subscription to onX Maps. I have a subscription to InReach, which is my device that you can send actual text messages from, rather than like your spot locator, which you can send pre things. There's only like 2 buttons on the whole thing, so it's super, super simple. You can only send two or three pre-designed messages, and you can't really see what's going on. So the the InReach that I have has very basic level GPS navigation, but you can also send specific messages, or of course the alert. You can get the cavalry coming.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
The nice thing about that is there's a lot of in between a disaster that you need help and perfect plan. There can be a lot of subtle stages to where it might be a little bit late, or the deer went to this side of the mountain, so I said I'd be hunting on the front side. I happen to be on the back side now, and for just being able to update is kind of a cool thing to do. So the InReach is nice. Another great technological advance. Again, it's crazy to think about just the level of responsibility and accountability that people used to have. When I was a kid growing up, you just were where you were supposed to be. And if you weren't, you ended up where you were supposed to be by the predetermined time. Dinner was at 6 o'clock. I had to be home by dinner. There was no texting from the river saying, hey, Mom, I'm running a little bit late. I'll be there soon. You had to be home by 6. That's just the way it was. So technology has changed that, maybe for the better. Maybe it's made us a little bit more irresponsible, but it is nice having those things. Google Earth to scout, Onyx maps while you're out there, or using a Google map. That thing will still track as long as you load the map before you lose cell phone reception. If you have the blue little GPS dot, you can still follow and you can still see where you're at, which is great. And then having an Onyx or a InReach or something like that to be able to communicate with people, it's pretty great. Pretty nice to have all those things at your disposal. Some of the other stuff that I've been thinking about has just been awesome. I've been reading Into Thin Air with my Adventure Lit class, and you're just thinking back to the history of mountaineering and mountain climbing and what they did even 20 years ago or so when there was that ill-fated hike that Krakauer was a member of. Just the technology between now and then. Now people can update and post and whatnot from wherever, and you got sat phones, and they had sat phones back then, but and that was the 90s. The first people that did that went up there were going up there without so many of the luxuries and out the efficient and lightweight gear that we have now, which is crazy. How hardcore people were. I'm looking right across my room right now at a couple fly rods and just the technology in the fly rods. I was talking with one of my journalism students about bamboo fly rods in the 1850s and 60s and 70s when that first started taking off, and how people would individually make these things. You didn't have graphite back then. You just had people who were painstakingly putting these bamboo fly rods together, which now some of them are $5,000-$10,000 if you want to buy one and collect. And it speaks to the amount of time that we have for recreation and the amount of money we had to spend on those sort of things, because life is so unbelievably easy. I was talking with my Adventure Lit class again about Into Thin Air and just what the locals think when these Americans, these other rich people from around the world show up to climb a mountain that's in their backyard. That it would not occur to them that doesn't look like fun, but we have so much time and we have so much money that we'll travel around the world to hike a mountain that could kill us. That's the life and the society that we come from when they're, in some cases, just scraping by, or they're totally content and happy with their little situation because they don't know any different. And that's not to say that they're primitive or that they're naive, but they just don't know, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's nice to not have anybody to compare themselves to. As far as, in America, so many people get depressed because they look at what other people have, and they look at this person who's able to go. I get upset, sometimes jealous, whatever, when you look at these people who get to go on these catered hunts, and they get to shoot the elk of a lifetime, or get to shoot a mule deer of a lifetime, or get to do all these things. And here I am, hoping to draw a goat tag, or hoping that a buddy will take me over. I'm super, super lucky and fortunate to live in Alaska, because the things that are available to me, and I don't have to get a guide. It's unbelievable. But you compare it to other people who, again, have the time to be able to do it. And yeah, we go out and then we do it for food, but there's an element of entertainment for it. It's not a life or death situation. I went out Monday and I forgot my release for my bow. That was not a life or death sort of thing. That was not, I now can't get food for myself or my family. That was recreation. That was recreation, hunting and gathering. It's just so different in our society. And it's nice to be able to recreate like that. And it's nice to be able to have those sort of means, but with it comes just some confusion. There really is some comparison, and people start worrying about what they don't have. And if they have their lives together, and if they have their lives together enough compared to this person, when in some places it's just being happy and industrious and being useful. We're so bored, and we come from a country that has so much. We can, sometimes we struggle to find our usefulness and our purpose, and that's really sad. And it's nice to be able to be around people who feel they have a purpose, and then, for me to feel I have a purpose. That sometimes I just sit back and think, man, I feel good about the fact that I have a point. I feel as though every day I have something to look forward to, and on the weekend I have stuff to look forward to. I have a life outside of my job, which is too something that not everybody has. And so if I sit back, and I don't want to say like #blessed, because I think that's just trite and cliche and overused, and I don't like the idea that like God chose me or likes me better than anybody else. But I did it. Not everybody has what I have here as a Ketchikan resident. I can go home, and there's stuff to do every day. I don't have to escape. It's just on the way home, man. A lot of people have that. They get caught up in their urban setting and their urban life, and they don't escape. And that's one of the things I like about the online community, and being connected with other Facebook friends or Instagram friends who go out on hunts, and they're excited to share with you, man. They're excited to see what you did over the weekend, and it's just cool to be involved in a group of people who get after it on the weekends, and successful or not. I went out and took a picture of a chipmunk or a squirrel. I don't know the difference. I know what a squirrel looks like. I know what a chipmunk looks like, but some of the smaller, like flying squirrel things that we have here kind of look like they're chipmunks. I think we have chipmunks here. I don't know. Someone who's listening to this right now, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Of course, how do you? Yeah, I'm not a scientist. I should know the difference between a squirrel and a chipmunk. But I think what I took a picture of was a squirrel. The squirrels we have here aren't like those gray squirrels you see running around parks in the lower 48. They're different looking things up here. So cut me a little bit of slack there. But it's nice to connect with people who also go out there and they were unsuccessful, and don't kind of rub it in your face and say, oh well, every time I go out I get something. Every time I go out I get this crazy big elk, or I'm able to do this. And I think when people do that, then I don't know, it just makes it a little bit different, and they're using technology either to, like I said, rub it in people's faces, or pretend like they're never unsuccessful, or just kind of maybe lose track of what it is to be alive right now and live in a place and be able to do what we do on our public lands. We go out there and we can enjoy that. And that can be our recreation. That can be fun. It's a fun, purposeful thing to do during the weekends or even after your job, and that's great. And to be able to share that with other people is awesome. So in that regard, Instagram, Facebook, love it. Absolutely love it. It's fun to see what people are up to and talk to people and have people give me advice about how to not lose my release or forget my release in my truck. But yeah, it can be a weird thing too. Spend too much time on there. Spend too much time living through other people's experiences or looking at what you can't do anymore or don't do. It can be a weird little portal that you go down to. So you got to be careful. As with anything, it's about moderation. But so there you go. We're gonna call that the episode here. I got some more cleaning to do, and then like I said, I got to get ready. I got a couple days of work this week, and then I'm off to Washington D.C. for a wedding. Should be an awesome time. If there's anybody else that has questions, please let me know. Send me a personal message on Facebook, or actually probably not on Facebook because there's all those scam stuff going around about, oh, I got a friend request from you and just whatever, man. Like it just, So maybe Instagram. Go on Instagram if you can send a message to me on at Alaska Lund or the Mediocre Alaskan. If you have any questions, comments, issues, or tips, I always like sharing tips there, reading about tips. Make sure you go to the mediocrealaskan.com, check out content, things like that. That'll do it. Here you go. Have a good week. Hope everyone gets out. Like I said, there's not going to be a podcast till next week, but there probably will be one about next week when I go to D.C. and try to remember all the things that are supposed to be done at a proper wedding. So call it that episode, and we will talk to you next time.